And and I think a lot of the standard identity and fraud checks that we have in place today, to your point, is built on static data, right? You're checking my name and my address and my social and my email address. But if the data is out there, then what value does the static piece of information provide to me, right? Because anybody who has my name and address and email address, I think you can just do a reverse lookup. Just type anyone's name and you'll pretty much find out where they live, where they work. And so when you call in, like this is funny. I had an incident with a cable company. I called them to upgrade my service, and literally the lady asked me to verify my name and address. And my first reaction, being in this space, is really that's all you need? Like, what if it wasn't me? Well, that's okay. I'm like, no, it should not be, right? You got to have more checks, because what you're doing, even though it's a very small thing, you're increasing someone's financial liability with you. And that person can walk away and say, that wasn't me. And you're going to have to eat the loss. You start multiplying that by 1 million people trying to do that, all of a sudden, it's a number worth looking at. So yeah, shifting away from that static data, whether it's me walking up there and showing you my ID, and you're hoping that the guy on the other side is good enough to detect a fake ID versus a real ID. Yeah, there's too much human element of error built in there.
Just to add in as well on that, so yeah, we're talking about credentials, and credentials are always going to be there. I've got name and address, and there's paperwork about me, and that's why it's important around the layering. So Correct. What is unique to me to help identify myself? That's where we're going when we talk about biometrics. That is very unique to me. But your challenge there, which you need to be mindful of, is what is the enrolment process for that?
Correct.
That's the key behind it, because if I'm a fraudster and I enroll Ryan Gosling as a user, then of course when we see fraudster log in again, it's Ryan. So you need to make sure that registration process is absolutely that individual, because that's the keys to the kingdom, right? So you get that right as a user, then of course you have a really good user experience. But if you get it wrong, essentially you're just then allowing that fraud to then log in that person every time.
Yeah, and it's a tough problem to solve, because you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? And once people get in, how do you build in the right controls so you can isolate that instance? Because people will still get in, right? A username password will still get stolen. Someone's digital identity at some point may still end up in the wrong hands. So what do you do very quickly to detect that and isolate it so you can limit the exposure? And I think that's where some of the stuff that I'm sure all of us are looking at is not only doing that static check at the point of the transaction, but then what information can you bring in as to what that consumer did? And what was the end result of that interaction? Was it good? Was it bad? You can bring that in and start creating a behavioral profile of that consumer, right? And you can put in whatever technology on it, AI or machine learning or whatever the case may be, but that becomes a pretty strong signal.
Yeah, and what we noticed as well with some of our clients, so they're actually now passively picking up information all the time. So when a customer uses the mobile app and I want to make a payment, they're actually moving around some of the buttons that they've got in order to then get more biometrics around the user. My thumb size is different to everyone in this room, right? And also the way I hold my phone, I can have left hand, right hand. That's all information around the user that you can actually start using in order to authenticate. But it's really interesting now that because of that passive information, banks are now thinking about, well, actually, if I change the user experience slightly, I can then actually get more information around the user. So they're kind of really now starting to adopt to the benefits of things like biometrics and uniqueness.
Right. I mean, it's all about coming up with that next crafty thing that you can use, that next signal that you can use to be predictive.